Hi, my name is Ileana from the Special Life of Us blog, and today I want to talk all about my daughter's medical binders, so if you're interested, keep on watching. I want to start off the video by telling you why I decided to make a binder and how it's changed my life entirely. Number one, it's emergency preparedness. As the primary person who interacts with my daughter's specialists and therapists and teachers, I have an enormous amount of information in my head. But what if something happens to my husband and I? What happened when my daughter is older and we are no longer here? I needed to find a way to put all of that information into a tangible resource that really at the end of the day gives us as parents peace of mind. Number two, it reduces so much stress. There are so many times we go to specialists and they ask us the same information over and over again, and there's so many forms to fill out and having to think of information on the fly. It can be a lot of pressure. So having a binder allows me to really access my information easily, and at the end of the day, it makes me a better advocate for my daughter. I've divided my daughter's binder into several sections: medical, school, various therapies, communication, and then I leave an open tab just in case something comes up. The information in the binder I like to keep as recent as possible, so everything within the last year. That just makes my life easier so that I'm not rummaging through old paperwork, and it keeps my binder as small as possible instead of dragging an entire wagon of information. Now, in no way, shape, or form am I telling you that this is the only way to make a binder. The possibilities are absolutely endless. You can have a binder for each different activity that your child has, so just a therapy binder, a school binder, etc. At the end of the day, you just need to evaluate your child's needs and really determine what generates the most paperwork. If your child has an extensive medical history, or really just every child should have a medical history detailed somewhere. And school, if your child has an IEP or a 504 plan, that generates a lot of paperwork. But other than that, really, it's just completely up to you. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a closer look inside my daughter's medical binder. The first thing I used was a 3-inch binder. Next, I use index dividers, and I prefer ones with pockets so I can store any additional information. I also use standard paper protectors, a hole punch, and some highlighters to mark up any important information. And the last things I used were a computer, a printer paper, and to create all of the documents I used in my medical section, I used Office Word. The first document in my binder is this profile, which I created on Microsoft Word using a resume template. This gives an overview of my daughter, her strengths, as well as areas that we're currently working on. To the right, I have made a list of all of my daughter's favorite things and then have included a picture for a personal touch. It's been really convenient to keep several copies on hand so that I can give to new providers so that they can have an overview of who my daughter is. Next is the medical summary. I start off by writing my daughter's full name, her date of birth, height, weight, and for us, head circumference. I make a list of all of her diagnoses as well as any allergies to medication. To the right, I make sure I list her medical record number, and you can also add all of the insurance information. And then I jot down all of the primary doctors that we work with, but I will elaborate on other documents. This next document is all about the medical team, the specialists and therapists. I wanted to make sure to list all of my daughter's primary specialists and their contact information, as well as a list of outside services that we receive. Also, to the right, I wanted to list all of our therapy contact information, and then make a list of all of the other specialists we don't see on a regular basis. Even though my daughter does not take any medication at this time, I figured that this template would be helpful because there's so many families who have kids who are on multiple medication. This template is straightforward since it allows you to enter all of the important information about each medication your child takes. Next is medical tests and equipment. I make sure I list the name of the procedure that was done, the name of the doctor and their specialty, as well as the date. You can also list any minor or major procedures as well as surgeries. Then to the right, I have an equipment log, which I go ahead and write all of the equipment that we've received. And to the column to the right, I write the date, which I keep it simple by just using the month and the year. The last Word document in my binder is all about goals and progress. I make sure to list all of the milestones my daughter has reached, when she reached them, and her approximate age. I can't begin to tell you how many times specialists have asked me when my daughter started doing what, so this has been really helpful to keep track of that information. I also want to reiterate the fact that it's important to write down anything that your child is doing. It doesn't have to be the traditional milestone. And finally, the last portion of my medical section is medical reports. Now this can be anything from a last visit summary, immunization records, or a letter confirming a diagnosis. I start off my school section with this school info template. It allows me to put the basic information of my daughter's school, as well as the contact information of all the people working with my daughter at school. The next thing that I have chosen to include is my daughter's daily classroom schedule, which was given to us by her teacher. If you don't have one, I would highly suggest just asking your child's teacher for one so that you can have a better understanding of how their day is structured. In this section, I have put all of the individual assessments that were done by the specialist working with my daughter at school, as well as her IEP. And lastly, in the school section, I've used the divider pocket to save any recent progress notes, as well as classroom assignments that are brought home. The next couple of sections in my binder are all about therapy and services. This will obviously vary with your child, but I have several different tabs for each of the therapy services and outside programs that we are a part of. Things you want to keep in this section would be any intake assessments, progress notes, any kind of paperwork you've signed, as well as brochures and pamphlets of each of the services. So finally, at the end of my binder, I have everything regarding communication, and I begin with this directory template. Very straightforward, allows you to put in the contact information of all of the specialists, doctors, and personnel that work with your child. And finally, the very last section of my binder is this communication log, which has absolutely changed my life. It allows me to put the date of the conversation, who I spoke with, what the reason of that conversation was, how we spoke, and in that note section, I just jot down what came of that conversation. I have several copies of this communication log in my binder. I have one just for school communication, another one for just therapy communication, and so forth. This allows me to keep everyone we talk to accountable because I know when we spoke, and it just helps keep all of the conversations organized because, let's just be honest, it can be very overwhelming. Here's a few extra tips that I think are important. Number 1, back up all of your information. You don't want all of your hard work going to waste if something happens to your computer or binder. So either back up all of your information on a removable hard drive, or you can do what I do, which is email the information to yourself. That way, if you don't have your binder, you can still have access to your child's information. Number 2, don't stress, just start. I know that can seem easier said than done because the binder might seem like an overwhelming task, but whether your child has been recently diagnosed or they're much older, it's never too late to start. And lastly, number 3, customize and share with others. Just because I've shown you my binder and how I put it together doesn't mean that's the only way. There are a million different ways, and each family needs to decide on which layout, what they can add or take away to a binder to make it accessible and practical to them. Once you create a binder that works for you, then share it with others. Don't keep helpful tips to yourself because, like the old saying goes, sharing is caring. And that's it. Hopefully you feel encouraged and inspired and motivated to make your own and customize and just see that it's not that complicated. Make sure to head over to the blog, The Special Life of Us, and click on the resource tab where you can find a post that summarizes this video and gives you all the information about the templates I've used. And I've also included the templates I created on Word there as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, go ahead and share it. And yeah, thanks so much for watching. Bye.